I always knew that I wanted to have like my own company. So the corporate world gave me all that background, tools, and all training. For me, it mattered most my dream, that what I had to go through to get there. I know cases of people that have been put into prison when they were 18-year-olds, and now they're like 40-year-olds, and they're still there, and they haven't committed a crime. So I also do it for them, so the world can know all the human rights violations that Venezuelans have gone through in these past 30 years with this horrible regime. I need to explain the world in a way that they can feel it, explaining through emotion what we've gone through, and hopefully that would make a little ripple in people's humanity and try to just raise their voice at least, and little by little will make a change. You don't mess with a girl from Venezuela. Whatever curveball he would throw at me, I would swing it out of the park.
What happens when you spend 8 years chasing a dream you believe will resonate with you? What happens when you keep believing in that truth that is not told to anyone? Today we're talking with Vanessa. She's the director of the film that will be the truth of a hero in Venezuela, Oscar Perez. The name of the film, the documentary, is Oscar, and she's gonna explain what it is to be following the dream. Keep pushing with determination to have 2 full auditoriums in just one day in your premiere. Welcome to the channel. My name is Bely, and this is the Entrepreneur Challenge. How are you today?
Hi, Bely. Thank you for having me here. I'm very pleased to be here and excited to be talking to you about all these challenges that I've been through to get to where we are today.
Okay, let's gonna start with the beginning of your story. I know that you're a nominee for the Emmys, and of course that you've been working with National Geographic and with Netflix. How did you come from Venezuela and now to these massive names?
Well, my dream was always to be a producer in Hollywood. So my life journey took me some other routes, and I started off in advertising, then I moved over to marketing, and then I was fed up with the corporate world. So then I decided that it was time to just follow my dream, my real dream, right? And that's when I decided 10 years ago to move to LA and start my career there as a producer. Obviously, when you get there, you don't start there. But it's a dream that you want to make come true that keeps you going. For me, it mattered most my dream, that what I had to go through to get there.
Where did you study? I know that you studied like 3 different degrees, so can you walk us through about those?
Yeah, I got my bachelor's in Venezuela, in la Universidad Católica. It would be a minor in a university. It's what I got. It was audiovisual arts. So basically filmmaking, producing, directing, all that stuff. That's always been my dream. Like back when I was a little girl, I just stared in front of me, and I wasn't just staring to the abyss. I was just in my mind, just making movies in my mind. Like I was watching movies that just appeared, like images after images, and then their stories started popping up in my mind. So that has always been there. So I started off in advertising and started working with like small stories, which is commercials. And then when I went to marketing, I was a marketing manager for BlackBerry for the Caribbean and Latin America. So that's where my strategist mind started to develop. In that sense, I think that got me an advantage over like other people that were starting in the industry at the same time I was in LA, because I had all this like corporate background, and I was super aware of where I wanted to go. I always knew that I wanted to have like my own company that I would be able to develop, produce, and then sell. So the corporate world gave me all that background, all those tools, and all training of how to manage a project from ideation to distribution. So my work, or my journey through the 10 years of television really in LA, which is what I've been mostly doing, was just learning and taking everything in from every single person. I could learn anything from anyone, and I would just be there. And if I had to stay later, I would, just because of that. I knew the dream was bigger and it was going to be totally worth it.
That's beautiful. One of the struggles that we have as creative and obviously immigrants, because obviously we are immigrants, is to keep dreaming, because obviously you start with the idea that you can do this and then you start overthinking about your accent, about your disadvantages. Tell me that point when you thought that you couldn't keep going forward.
I've never seen it as a disadvantage to be an immigrant, to be honest. I use it as my advantage because nobody has what I have. I honed it actually, and that's what made me stand out from the rest.
Actually, the slogan of my channel is embrace your authenticity. My idea was to obviously speak out to all those people that are afraid to speak in English, because in the UK, I don't know if it happened to you, but a lot of people that I talk to, they're afraid of speaking in English because they think that they don't speak English good enough, which is not real. I mean, we all have struggles, even them. Can you tell me, how do you embrace your authenticity? What makes you stand out from everyone?
Well, I think in my case, coming from Venezuela, which people, say it's a third world country, where you don't have access to certain tools, access to probably like a great mentor that can tell you how to go, where to go, and how to do things. You have to figure things out on the go. I remember, this is a very interesting story. Like one day, I was working on a show. It was like 3 months long. It was the last day of the show. Through the process, we lost a toaster. And bagels, let me tell you, are a very important breakfast in any set. Like you need bagels, right? Okay. And they need to be toasted, right? So we lost the toaster, and the line producer got so mad at me because we lost it. And I was like, it's the last day, who cares? And he's like, I want a toasted bagel. I don't know what you're gonna do. We're not gonna buy a toaster. And I was like, all right, let me look around. Let me see what I have here. So I saw the coffee maker, the one that has the pot. Okay. So I just turned it up, put the bagel upside down, and I toasted it, and I gave it to him.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's like, how do you do it? I'm like, you don't mess with a girl from Venezuela. And from then on, I was like his right hand, because he knew like whatever curveball he would throw at me, I would swing it out of the park. That's one way. And then the other way, it's just like my accent that you were talking about, like probably having an accent. English, like I learned English in school, so it wasn't like, I learned English when I was 4. My grandmother was American, so I was always speaking English to her. So for me, it wasn't in my mind that I had an accent. But every time you get somewhere and you start talking, everyone's like, oh, you have an accent, where are you from? Right? So I embraced my inner Sofia Vergara, and that's what I did. So I just started using my accent in my favor. And so that was like a bonding situation with everyone, because they started like mimicking me, and it's something that I just say, like everything's like, oh, this is happening. I'm like, bueno, let's fix it. So they were like, everyone was like, if anything would happen, they would go, bueno, we'll fix it, So it ended up being part of, like, even though I'm different that way, they ended up wanting to just like be part of my culture too.
That's beautiful. Okay, let's go to that moment when you didn't want to carry on with this important story. This story is really, really necessary for all of us to learn. It's the story of a hero. So many people thought at some point of the story that it was not real. And watching this film, this documentary, which is in first person, you will realize who he was and all the important things that he did. And I would like to know, what was the point when you said, I need to tell this story, and the moment when you said, I can't carry on, and what happened to continuing being in this point today?
Well, it started out of curiosity. I wanted to understand the character. I wanted to understand Oscar, who he was, and what happened that people didn't believe him. Like, not everyone believed his mission, his journey, and he ended up being executed by the state. And even then, after he was executed and it was like known, people just still weren't, they were like on the fence, right? Is he part of the regime? Is he part like of a true Venezuelan that wants Venezuela's liberty? So it started off as curiosity, and then when I started digging in and I started understanding the character, seeing what really happened in Venezuela these 30 years under this narco-terrorist regime, I was like, this needs to be told to the world. And then the other thing is that living in the US, I've been very blessed to live there for the past 20 years. I've realized that they've had everything, as we should, but they don't understand. Even when I talk to them, even though they know me, even though my friends know my story, my immigration story, or all the hurdles that we have to go through as an immigrant, as a Venezuelan immigrant, just talking to them, I realize they don't understand. Like if I tell them, oh, we're hungry, they've never gone hungry, ever. So like they're hungry, they go, they buy candy. In our country, in Venezuela, 90% of the population can't even have like a glass of milk. You know what I mean? So I was like, I need to explain the world in a way that they can feel it. So maybe it's not about like showing 100%, but like through showing, having them feel what we have lived through. So that was my main drive, explaining through emotion what we've gone through, and hopefully that would make a little ripple in people's humanity and try to just raise their voice at least, and little by little will make a change. And the other side that kept me going, it's the political prisoners. There are many political prisoners in Venezuela that are still there. I know cases of people that have been put into prison when they were 18-year-olds, and now they're like 40-year-olds, and they're still there, and they haven't committed a crime. So I also do it for them, so the world can know all the human rights violations that Venezuelans have gone through in these past 30 years with this horrible regime. Going back to your other question, when I wanted to give up every single day of my life, because it's emotional, it's financial, it's psychological, it's every single issue that you think the life can throw at you, and you have to be very strong. Like I had to quit my job. I was producing a show for National Geographic for the past 6 years, top show of the network. It was like top 5, number 1 or 2, and I had to quit to just do this for 2 years. And in those 2 years, it's like, okay, I need to leave, I eat up my savings, I need to hustle here and there because I have to keep going. And the more I put it off, the longer it would take, and then the longer it would take for me to go back to making money again.
Yeah, to make it financially. That's something really important that we also need to learn from this kind of situations, because we sometimes have a dream, but we don't realize how much it needed to make it profitable. And these kind of videos is to show that we can dream, we can love what we do. We need sacrifices, of course, but we also, of course, need some profit. We would like to know, how can we become you?
I don't think you want that.
How can we start making movies, or how can we start producing? What do I need to do to be in the point that you are today?
The easiest way for me to explain it, imagine you're on a diet. Don't eat the sugar. Okay. That's it. Just easy. Just stick to your dream. And you know what I do, to be honest? Now, going to be completely honest, I just take one step every day. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's long or short. Just do one thing today that will get you closer to your dream, and put a timeline to it. You say 1 month, do it in 1 month.
Which tool do you use? For example, there are a few different tools, such as project management tool. What do you use, Excel?
No, I'm more creative. So what I really do is I develop. It's Good Notes, basically, which is an iPad app. You can have like a bazillion notebooks within the app. So I have one notebook per project. So every time I have an idea, I just go back to my iPad, and then I just start writing off in that specific notebook. That's when I'm starting to like create. And then I read a lot. It depends on what I'm into. So let's say I want to develop a show about music. So there we go. I just want to know everything there is to know about music. And then I just start investigating. Obviously now I use a lot of ChatGPT and all those AIs. They're a very good creative partner because they don't get bored. And whichever way you go, they'll follow. so I don't have a pushback ever. Which when you're a creative, when someone like blocks you, it's horrible. You just want to like keep walking and throwing ideas out there because you never know when a connection is going to happen in your mind. So just being open to the world. And also I'm very spiritual, I guess. So I'm very open to the signs of the world too. So it's like the energy, and I'm also like very aware of my surroundings because I never know what's going to inspire me and click that idea in my mind.
You go with the flow.
I go with the flow. And also when you're a documentarian, you also have to have that personality, I guess, at least in my work, depending on if you're in production or producing. We're always on a schedule. We're managing money. We're managing a team of people. They need to break. You know, there's a lot of logistics behind the project, but you also working in reality and documentary, unscripted, which is what I work on. You just have to be open to whatever happens in front of you because you have to make a show, and you can't like, oh no, stop, and I don't want that to happen. You know, it's like, it's real life. So how do you make a great story out of it? For me, it's a lot of reading, a lot of studying. I'm always studying new formats. I'm always studying narrative. I go back to Aristotle. How do you think? Philosophy, a lot of psychology too. So it's a lot of studying. It's a lot of work if you want to make a great product. Excel, it comes in handy when you do releases. Okay. That you have to have all the legal forms and stuff. But mainly, yeah, calendar. Calendar is very important for our schedule, our shooting schedule. You would think it's very technological. No. I would say it's sort of outdated. When you're creating, you can't like sit down and just like be like everything squared up. You're like open. So when you work with producers, you have like your production team that does all that like scheduling, all that like mind work on that sense. But it's usually like Excel, like all the like regular apps that we use, nothing fancy. Although for post-production, then that's another universe. Okay. And also because we collaborate a lot with like other teams that are around the world. So that's pretty cool too, that nowadays we have I post-produced this movie in Mexico. My editor was in Mexico, I was in LA, and then the musician was in Spain. So we had like that little triangle, and then my mixer was in Miami. Then we ended up collaborating thanks to all of those tools like Frame.io, Slack. That's what we use, and a lot of WhatsApp too. Yeah. It's so much easier now with like sending files and stuff. It's so much easier, and Google Drive a lot. Google Docs. I was about to say. Yeah.
Because obviously when you're working, you can jump in another conversation, in another writing moment. When someone is creating something, you just jump like at the same time.
Especially like when I used to produce Cesar Milan, the show is called Better Human, Better Dog. That's a very complicated show. You wouldn't think it is, but it's a very complicated show. Like our last show, I think we had something around like 60 dogs that we saw in a season. So like scheduling wise, it's crazy, you know? So we jump in on Excel in a like a Zoom meeting or like Hangouts meeting, and then we look at the calendar and the schedule. It's like, oh, this lady can't do it on Monday, this one can, and then that's when we start shifting things around, like live right there, collaborative, because you need many pieces of the team together. So you needed the DP to know where we're shooting, where we're going, how many people, and then how many people are going to be there, how many people are going to be mic'd up, you know, and then logistically how many people are going to eat. So we need like a lot of people in one meeting. There always has to be like many people.
Okay, there's so many questions that I have to do, but let's go and wrap it up this. There is a question that I always ask everyone. You already mentioned, how do we embrace our authenticity? So can you encourage everyone to do the same? How can they embrace their authenticity and carry on with their dreams, follow their dreams and become you?
The only way to stand out is being yourself. Why would you want to be like someone else? There's no way you would stand out being like anybody else. So find your quirkiness, find what makes you unique, and stick to it, because that's what people are gonna love from you, because that's what gonna make you stand out. So just embrace it and figure out how it makes you happy and just go down that route. I saw a podcast the other day and they were interviewing this creative, and he was saying the way for you to know what you should do or like what you should dedicate your life, it's like when you sit down and time goes by and you don't realize it went by, that's where you are. That's where you stay. That's where you go. So just put those two together, see what makes you different from anybody else, and use it in your favor.
Any message for all the people that are there that doesn't know what is happening in Venezuela and how this film that you just did will explain to them the reality that is not told?
Thank you for that question. And for me, it's very important because I put a lot of effort into that exactly. And since it's a documentary, usually documentaries have what people call recreations, right? So if you're telling, let's say it's a crime show, like however the crime happened, people usually like do a little scene, like with actors and stuff. In this case, I'm using citizen journalism because in Venezuela, the media has been controlled by the regime for the past, I don't know how many years, almost 3 decades now.
Yeah.
There's no like unbiased information, let's say, out there. Not even from the news outlet, because they all have to follow the regime's editorial, right? So there's a good thing about Venezuelans that they just start recording everything that happens around them. So I use the daily life of Venezuelans as my recreations. So let me give you an example. Oscar, which is the main character of my story, had a older brother. He had two brothers. The one in the middle, he got murdered because he was mugged for like $10 in cash. He was stabbed to death in the streets of Caracas.
Yeah.
So I just started researching and I found a bazillion scenes of someone being murdered in the streets of Caracas.
Okay.
So I'm using a real life scene as what would in a real documentary would be a recreation. So people are actually going to be seeing what we really live through in Venezuela every single day. So you're not going to see people talking like, oh yeah, we're hungry. You're like, oh yeah, who was killed. You're going to actually see it in real life. It's not gory, don't worry, but it's explanative enough so people can understand what we're going through. And I think that's why it's so important today to have a film like this out there. Not just for Venezuelans, but for the world to know the consequences of a socialist regime and a narco state like the Venezuelan regime. Because we've seen, how it's just like so different and how they're starting to implement that strategy around the world. For me personally, of course, it's very important for the world to understand the consequences more than what it happened and who they are. Because we do show them too. I would love the world to understand the consequences of a socialist and communist regime. And I hope, and that's my hope, that the most amount of people can see it. And what I said in the beginning, that it would make a ripple in their worlds, and hopefully they take that with them and probably they will want to make a change too, or start being like part of that conscience for future generations so we don't go back there anymore, ever.
Yeah, the most important thing that I have to say about the film, I didn't realize how beautiful character he was. I was not aware about how we Venezuelans are such a great community. Keep thinking about who we are, but sometimes I forget because our story has been kind of recreated by someone else that is not actually who we are. So we've been told that we're completely characters that this film shows who we truly are. People that we are warm, we want to help the others. There is no way that you go to talk to any Venezuelan and they won't help you, because we always want to help someone. Even we cannot help ourselves for whatever reason, we will do our best to help others. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time for doing the film, for the 8 years of sacrifice. I hope that you can go everywhere. I will be there with you. Tell me every single place where you're going to show this film, and tell us where we can follow you.
Thank you, Bely. I hope that too for us and for the film and for Venezuela as well. You can follow me on my Instagram, Vanessa_Whaite, that's Whaite, and follow, most importantly, the film's Instagram, which is Oscar Perez, the movie. And we'll give you all the information there, where you can watch it and when, all right? And see you soon.
Bye, thank you.
Subscribe for more stories from dreamers, creators, and people building the life they once imagined.
Este trabajo que está acá no hubiese sido posible en lo absoluto sin el empeño que pusieron su directora Vanessa Whaite y
Hola, buenos días. Bueno, buenas tardes. Gracias a todos por venir. Estamos muy contentos de ver esta sala llena, ¿vale? Bueno, espero que hayan podido disfrutar esta premiere y que hayan podido conocer un poquito más de Oscar y de su lucha, y que se sientan un poco más orgullosos de no solo de él, sino de nosotros como venezolanos. Y me gustaría, bueno, despedirme con unas palabras de Oscar, recordarles que solo ahora nosotros tenemos el poder ahora, y que la libertad depende de nosotros. Así que sigamos en esta lucha libertaria hasta que lo logremos, la libertad para nuestro país. Gracias a todos.